Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today, April 13th. It's a 5-game main slate overall. In today's video, we'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, talking a little bit about weather regards to the games for tonight's slate as well, and then going over to FanDuel, talking some core picks. And then after that, we'll get into some top stacks for the day. If you guys did miss it, I did put out a price pick line that I did like, at least early on for today, up on my Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. It was over 0.5 total bases for Nolan Gorman and under 1.5 total bases for I believe it's Yustori Ruiz for the Oakland A's today. So it's a pretty heavy line for him, which is kind of weird, honestly. And it's one that he hasn't hit too often so far this season as well. But without further ado, we'll get into a recap of yesterday's picks. And not the greatest day yesterday, for being completely honest. We went with Spencer Strider at the pitcher position, $10,900, got to 33 points. So did give him a push yesterday. He was not anybody that killed you at the end of the day, but just wasn't anybody that really helped us at that pitcher position, especially in paying up as well. At first base, we went with Ryan Mountcastle. Looked like a pretty decent matchup against the Oakland A's, and Ken Waldichuk did not end up being the case yesterday. He had 0 points. He went 0 for 4, unfortunately. At third base, we had J.D. Davis, $2,700, only got 3.5, so to give him a push. He was not the worst play in the world, but didn't help us at the same time. Same thing with Austin Hayes at $2,900, who got to 3 points. So both those ended up being pushes yesterday. And then at outfield, we had J.D. Martinez, $3,200, getting to 18.2 points. So he was a hit yesterday. Kind of an unfortunate slate yesterday. Not the best one, but you're going to have that from time to time in baseball. It's, the least unpredictable sport out of all the major sports as well. There's going to be variance on any given day. But at the end of the day, the process remains the same. We're just trying to get more good days than bad days at the end of the day altogether. But with that being said, going to get off of the recap for yesterday. We'll talk about the weather for today's games. At least early on at this point in time, weather does not appear to be a factor for any of the 5 games on the main slate. So if anything does change with that information throughout the day, I'll post it down in the comments. But we've had some really good weather so far to start the season, which is great to see. Obviously, the weather's warming up quite a bit across the country, so that is going to be good for baseball, good for offenses overall in general. But we're going to close out of this screen. We'll go over to the FanDuel side, talk about the core picks that I do have for today. Obviously, it is a 5-game main slate today. Sometimes these slates get a little bit interesting. These are kind of my favorite to play when we get 5-6 games, because you got a lot of flexibility to get to a lot of different players as opposed to like 12-game slates where it's harder to touch on some of the different teams as well. But in terms of what I do have for today for the core picks, we're going to have Jordan Montgomery at the pitcher position. If you look at my cheat sheet today, which is up on FanDuel or up on Facebook, up on Twitter, up on YouTube, up on Patreon, or will be up on Patreon after this video. Definitely have 3 pitchers that I like there. Nick Lodolo is the high-end pitcher. Jordan Montgomery kind of the mid-range pitcher. And then Chris Bassett going against Detroit today has some pretty good upside as well at $7,300. Ended up in that kind of mid-range with Jordan Montgomery. I feel like he's probably the safest guy just overall today. He's going against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Not the greatest lineup in the world. He had 37 points versus them in 2022 in his lone start against them. He's had some decent history against them, although it is pretty limited at that. So I do like him quite a bit today. And, he went 7 innings his last start. He struck out 9. So no limitations in terms of pitches or anything else like that. Decent price tag at this point in time. And then at first base, we're going with Paul Goldschmidt. He is going against Vince Velasquez today, or / the Pirates bullpen, because Velasquez had rolled his ankle in his most recent start. We'll see how that affects him today. Probably not going to be the greatest pitcher overall, with that being considered. And, at the end of the day, he's a low-end, back end of the rotation swingman type before injury. So potential pitch count for him. Maybe if his ankle starts flaring up, then they go to the bullpen. Pirates bullpen's not the greatest in the world. Paul Goldschmidt is 5 for 14 versus Vince Velasquez in his career with 1 home run as well. Obviously, if you look at some of the recent games for Paul Goldschmidt, I'll just pull this up real quick. Obviously, he's been off to a very hot start to start the year. Once again, 364. Only the 1 home run, though, so upside a little bit limited, but the past 3 games over double-digit points. If you look in the season in total, he's only had a couple games where he hasn't gotten a hit so far this year. So pretty safe floor, pretty good upside at the same time as well. And then we move down to second base with Jake Cronenworth. He's relatively cheap price tag at $2,600, averaging about 8.5 points on the season. maybe not the high end upside is like a Paul Goldschmidt or somebody, but like that. But obviously, there's a $1,200 price difference there. He's 2 for 2 versus Bryce Wilson, who is the expected starter for the Milwaukee Brewers today. Wilson, we'll see how far he pitches into the game since he's kind of been that long man out of the bullpen. I believe the highest pitch count he's gotten to so far this season is 36 pitches. So we'll see if they let him go too far into this game. 60, 75 pitches, pitch count probably. So, if he gets 4 innings in the game, just really depends on how he's pitching. But he's a guy in the past, when he's been a starter, he's kind of struggled against the lineup, especially like the second and third time through if he gets there. So we'll see how the Brewers treat that situation just in general, but do like Jake Cronenworth quite a bit today. Then we move down to the outfield. We're going to go with Juan Soto. Juan Soto has faced Bryce Wilson, only 3 times in his career. He does have 1 hit, but that hit is a home run. He's coming off some pretty good history in recent games. $3,600 isn't a bad price tag for a player of Juan Soto's caliber. So do like the upside that he presents today at a reasonable price tag. And then, a little bit of that history versus Bryce Wilson, where he does have a home run versus him in a very, very small sample size. And then last but not least, we have Tyler O'Neill, who is $2,400 for some odd reason. Not sure exactly why that's the case, because he's averaging just under 8 fantasy points per game. But like when you look at his box score, or when you look at like the game logs and stuff, he really hasn't had that bad of a season to start. So he's hitting 282, bringing this up once again. And like you look here, there's a couple games where he doesn't have a hit, but he's really hasn't been that bad this year. Pretty safe floor. He's got good upside today too as well. So versus Vince Velasquez in his career, he is 3 for 4 with 2 home runs. So some pretty obviously Tyler O'Neill, just from a body perspective, is one of the most jacked guys in all of baseball. So there is that power upside on any given say. There is that power speed combo. So maybe he starts running today a little bit more. That's not always the case, but if we can sneak some solo bases in with any player just in general, especially with the new rules that help guys steal bases probably a little bit more effectively, is something to definitely take advantage of from a DFS perspective as well. But $2,400 is just way too cheap for him, especially given the history, the fact that he hasn't done poorly all season. So definitely do like going to Tyler O'Neill once again today. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here, you have $13,200 remaining, just exactly $3,300 per player remaining. So you can pretty much pay for anybody that you want to on this slate, whether you're paying up for some guys, whether you're taking a little more balanced approach. Definitely a lot of ways to approach it today, just in general, but it should be a pretty fun and interesting slate overall. But with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. We're going to move over to the bottom half of the cheat sheet and talk about the the top stacks for today. Excuse me. So the teams that I'm most interested in stacking today, we have the St. Louis Cardinals. They're going against Vince Velasquez. Already kind of highlighted that matchup quite a bit, but Velasquez coming off a rolled ankle, the x-rays came back negative, could be affecting him. Maybe he's not as effective today, which he's not that great to start with. And then you get into that Pirates bullpen, could be a very advantageous spot there for the Cardinals. A lot of these Cardinals hitters have pretty good history versus Vince Velasquez in the past. Like the only notable one that really doesn't is Nolan Arenado, which is a little weird, but at the same time, most of those other guys do have pretty good history versus him at this time as well. So do have quite a few of those in my cheat sheet. Definitely like stacking the Cardinals today. Then we have the Toronto Blue Jays. They're going against Spencer Turnbull. Not a lot of history there, but Turnbull's 3rd start back from Tommy John hasn't been too good to start the season. So it should be a pretty good matchup for the Blue Jays just in general. Then we have the Milwaukee Brewers going against Nick Martinez. A little bit of hit or miss mystery there as well, but some of the guys do have good history at the same time versus him. So do like it as a spot to potentially attack. Martinez hasn't been off to the greatest start so far this year. And then the Padres, once again, going against Bryce Wilson and the Milwaukee Brewers. Some of these hitters have hit him really well in the past in a very small sample size. Bryce Wilson, how far exactly will he pitch into the game? And then you get into that Milwaukee bullpen. They are a good bullpen, but if you start getting into it pretty early, might put some pressure on some of those bullpen arms just in general as well. But with that being said, those are kind of the teams that I do like stacking overall for today. Core picks for today. If you guys have any specific questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to let me know your favorite play just from an MLB DFS perspective for today. If you guys have questions related to DraftKings, feel free to leave them down in the comments as well, so I can take a look at that as well. Obviously, I play primarily on FanDuel, just scoring's a little bit different, 2 pitchers versus 1 pitcher on the DraftKings side and everything else like that. But if you have questions, I can still help you as best that I can as well. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have in terms of the Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today for April 13th. Once again, definitely be sure to list any questions that you do have below. I'll try to get to as many starting lineups as I can today. Might be a little bit trickier since we do have a baseball game going on later this afternoon. So I'll get to what I can get to for the main slate. Obviously, there's 5 games, but if you're not checking it out, if I don't house this up, just Google MLB daily lineups at RotoWire. They'll all pop up there as well. So it's a good resource to have. I can leave a link to that down in the comments as well. And then also, just throwing up the banner real quick for the prize picks. I did mention the one at the beginning of the episode that I did put in, that I did put up on Twitter as well. If you use this promo code when you first sign up, 100% first match deposit up to $100. Helps you out a little bit, helps me out a little bit as well. And definitely a great site to use. It's a little bit better than your traditional parlay site where you can get one wrong if you're doing a flex play. And then at the same time, you can still stack MLB together, NBA, whatever sport you want to put together. You can build your lineups out that way as well, the parlays that you're building over there. But with that being said, that's really all that I have at this point in time. If you are brand new to my channel, definitely consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS going on. Got an XFL DFS stream that will be happening later this morning. And then if you haven't already check out my USFL DFS preview, kind of first look. I'll be doing another stream tomorrow for that as well. So lots of spring football going on. We got baseball going on. Definitely a great time of year for DFS perspective. If you guys have any other questions, anything related to any of those sports, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's on Twitter or down in the comments on those videos as well. But with that being said, that's all I really have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to watch this video, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me, and I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.